It says it's recording.
Okay.
My name is Clayton Peterson, Clayton. I am the interviewer today.
My name is Margaret Ristau, R-I-S-T as in Tom, A-U, and I'm going to be interviewed. It's exciting.
Good afternoon, Margaret.
Hi there.
Yes. So the first question that I have to ask you is, give us a brief description of your upbringing, your parents, siblings, anything like that that you might like to share.
Okay, had a pretty average upbringing for this part of the world. Lived on a farm out by Geneseo, and my father worked for Deere and Company. He was in charge of labor relations. My mother was a homemaker. Had one sister and one brother. Went to Geneseo schools, graduated high school, got married, lived in Geneseo, got divorced, went to college, got married a couple more times, raised 2 kids.
Very good. So what do you do currently for a living, or?
I'm retired and loving it.
That's wonderful. And I should have asked you before this, what did you have dreams as a youth of what you would do when you became older, and did any of those dreams come true?
To tell you the truth, Clayton, I had a hallucination or a vision at one point in my life when I was about 24 and never thought I would live to be old. So I'm amazed that I'm still here. And the whole experience changed my life.
Are you currently in a relationship or married at this point?
I have been with my current partner, Marty, for approximately 30 years.
But you, however, have not married,
No.
so to speak.
After 3 failed marriages, I've decided that marriage is not for me. It does something to the relationship.
And you said earlier in our conversation that you were married and had 2 children.
Right.
Are your children accepting of your sexual orientation or identity?
One wasn't at the beginning, but both are now. They're awesome. And they love Marty.
And that's great. That's her other half. Margaret and Marty.
Now, the M&Ms.
M&Ms.
We argue over who's the nut.
That's great. And you did not do any service in the military?
No.
And you did, before you retired, you worked for Deere and Company?
Right.
And was Deere and Company, were other employees of Deere and Company accepting of your sexual orientation, or did they not know?
I don't know. I never denied it, but it wasn't something that I made a point of telling people. So there were some who knew and some who didn't.
So, when did you come out first?
It was a very slow and gradual process because I certainly never thought of myself as a lesbian for years and years. And as I said, I was married 3 times, in fact, and loved my husbands when I got married very, very much. But I met Marty. She was tending bar, and her niece was a friend of mine, and so we went to see her one night and just, I don't know, developed a relationship, and it was wonderful.
That's great. So, it was a slow coming out, but you came out 30 years ago.
Approximately, yeah.
And how did you come out? Do you remember that?
I don't think I ever came out like opening the closet door or anything. It was kind of shocking to me, but not so much to my friends and people. It was just happened gradually.
You meandered out into
I
society.
meandered out into society. I had been going to the gay bars and that down on 20th Street in Rock Island for years prior to that, because I had a really good friend who was in drag shows and that, so I would go to root him on, more or less, and I loved the gay community because they were so accepting, and you could kind of just be yourself. You didn't have to pretend to be someone else.
Yeah, so, yeah, one of my questions, and I think you just covered it, was early in your coming out, was there any place that you felt more safe and more secure?
And several reasons for that. There was one at JR's. Dave Haroon was there to take the entry, what you paid when you came in, and he kind of always looked out for me. If somebody was bothering me, or if he thought I had had maybe a little bit too much to drink, he would come over and tell me to slow down or to watch myself. I always felt safe when I was there, because people seemed to really care.
So did your parents realize your sexual orientation, or were they gone by then?
Oh, no, they weren't gone by then. They had some problems with it at first, partly because in the meantime they had moved to Arkansas, very Bible Belt part of Arkansas, and Marty and I had gone down there to visit, and it came out. But the years went by, and my mother died first, but after she had died, my dad came to live with Marty and I for a while before he died at our house. So he had totally changed his attitude. He loved Marty too.
Yeah,
It changes.
It changes as time goes on. Was there anything that frightened you about coming out? Were you ever called names or ever
I never
abused?
had a bad experience. I think partly because it never was a big deal. My friends and my family had already gone. I had a harder time when I married a black man than I did when I got involved with a lesbian. I'm not sure what that says about society or the changes in society, but that was, so my family may have thought it was a relief.
Well, but 30 years ago, that was unusual that a white woman marry a black man, was it not? Well, 40 years ago, wasn't that the case? I mean, that was
Yeah.
really,
It
that
was-
put you in a minority also.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And actually, I was probably more concerned about that, because I did go, we had a good family friend, my dad's friend, Mel Pettis, who's black, and I went to ask him what he thought would happen at Deer, when I got married. And he said, well, nobody will ever say anything to your face, as long as you act like you don't care. He said, what do you care what they say when you're not around?
Wow.
So I think I kind of took that advice into my relationship with Marty too. I don't care what you say when I'm not around, so.
Who has been the biggest influence in your life?
For
Anything?
anything? Right now, I have a woman in my life who is a major influence. She lives in the little town that my dad is from Oklahoma, Forgan. It's way out in the middle of nowhere. The county itself only has about 600 people in it, so that tells you how small the town is. She is 101.
Oh my.
She lives alone. She makes quilts. She very active in her church. She still drives. She's in charge of the community center. She hasn't slowed down she has slowed down, but she is still vital and necessary, and as she says, she doesn't give a damn what people think about her. She's my hero.
She's your hero. What do you believe has stayed the same throughout your entire life, and what has changed?
Oh, that's a good one. For me personally, has been changed, it stayed the same, has been my friendships with people. Friendship is to me probably is in many cases the most important relationship that I have in my life. If I tell somebody, including family members, I think of you as a friend, it means you're next to my heart. The thing that's changed the most for me has been how my circle of friends has grown instead of decreasing. Most people say that they lose friends as they get older, but I can't say that. When people say they have best friends, I can honestly say that I have many best friends.
Can you surmise what it's like being lesbian, gay, and bisexual in the Quad Cities in a few sentences?
For me, I know for some people, especially for young people coming out or getting adjusted to their own sexuality, can be very traumatic. I have never had any kind of a traumatic experience based on the fact that I'm a lesbian. I realize that makes me very fortunate. For me, I don't think my life, the Quad Cities is a wonderful place to have kids. It's a wonderful place to grow up. It's kind of scary right now because of all the shootings in Davenport and that. But I think at the base, the foundation, the Quad Cities is a great place to live.
Are there any special events related to being LGBT that you're proud of being a part of?
MCCQC, the church that was founded by Troy Perry, I take a great deal of pride in the fact that our church started very small, that it's still here in a time that churches are having a hard time holding on to membership, that it's very active in the community, openly active. They don't, people wear the rainbow colors, they have events, and the whole community comes to it. I am very proud of MCC for what it's done.
And I think there's another thing that you need to mention at least a little bit in this interview, and that's a cookbook that was put out in about 1991 or 2?
Yeah, something like that. Bill Coffey started, and the way I remember the story happening, the We Care Weekend events, as a way for the community, the gay, lesbian community, to take care of themselves, and that's where the name came from, We Care. And it was entirely, in the very beginning, supported by, run by people in the community to themselves. Some of them didn't have any training or any practice at running anything, and they would hold yearly events that raised money to help each other. And I put together a cookbook that was easy because I didn't have to go trying to rouse up support with recipes and that. We had more recipes than we knew what to do with. It was a great effort put in by the community Clayton here did a lot of work on it too, so I am not the only one. Which is one of the things I love about the Quad Cities. If you can get one or two people interested in something, you've got a support community for almost anything that you want to do. And to me, you can't ask for any more than that.
Are there any other Quad City leaders or organizations like QCAD and Joyce Wiley that you'd like to also mention?
I'm not very involved with organizations except our church, but I was involved for a while with QCAD and Joyce Wiley. The clock downtown for young people, I think that's a great organization. That also, my mind just went blank. The organization, One Family or whatever, what's it called? The Rabbi Karp and
One Human Family.
One Human
One
Family.
Human Family.
Yeah, sorry about that lapse. I'm senile.
We're all older.
At 77, you can claim to be senile.
Well, that was one of my questions, but you've answered it for me without my prodding a woman for her age. That's great.
Well, what, did I just give it out? Well,
You
when
just
you
gave
think
it out.
you're gonna die before you're 30, getting to 77 is an achievement.
It's an So, did the AIDS crisis affect you in any way?
It was heartbreaking, because so many people that I knew and cared about died. And, it would be, a lot of them I didn't know as deep friends or in that, but you'd expect to see them when you go down to a bar, and then somebody would say, well, they died. I do have a funny story to tell about that, though. Going down to the bar and, you would find out somebody had died. I was down at JR's on a Sunday afternoon, and there were funeral flowers and baskets and that, and someone came in and said, well, who died? Knowing that it was probably gonna be somebody that they knew. And the other person said, Tom Gerber said, well, it was Robert Redcar. And the guy said, well, who's that? That's somebody. Of course, we had food and everything. I don't know who they were talking about. It was my car that had died. And that's the kind of support that you got from the gay community back in those days. They were willing to have a party or to celebrate with a wake for a car.
Do you have any advice you would give to up-and-coming LGBTQ persons today? Something that's different from yesterday, that's either better today, or advice that you want to give them?
I would advise anybody up and coming in this troubled world to make friends, not necessarily people who are just like you. Try to have a diversity of friends and realize that those relationships are important and hang on to them. One time when I was in my 30s, we were having a party out at the Holiday Inn. Had rented 605, it was a suite. And a friend came in, an acquaintance of mine, it was a friend of somebody else, came in and was sitting there and looking at the people, and there was a drag queen there, and there was a guy in a cowboy hat, and there was people in suits. And he turned and he looked at me and he said, don't these people realize they don't belong together? And don't ever let yourself be one of those people that say you don't belong with somebody else. Because those people that were in that room then, all those years ago, are still my friends today.
Do you have concerns for the future generations?
For anybody looking at this in the future, 2020 has been a year of deep concern and hell. We are one day away from the election. I find it very scary what is going on in our country today. I am afraid that if certain things happen, that rights for women, gays and lesbians will be cut, that we will find ourselves going backwards instead of forwards. And the only way to prevent that, because no matter who wins, we have discovered that there is a deep undercurrent of people who want things to be very different, that we need to learn how to depend on each other and to know that the person standing next to us wants the best for us, and we want the best for that person, and not worry about, to be able to have the freedom to not have to worry that who we are, or what the color of our skin is, or who we love, that we have equal rights.
What are you most looking forward to at this point in your life?
My great-grandchildren, when they come along.
Do we have grandchildren?
Oh, yes.
Let's see, we missed that part, didn't we?
Yes.
How many grandchildren?
I have two grandchildren. I have a grandson that's 27 and a granddaughter who's 17.
So it's within the realm to have great-grandchildren?
Yes. Jared doesn't seem to be in any hurry, but that's okay. His grandma took a long time to figure out what she wanted to do with her life. My children, I have two sons. My sons bring me a great deal of joy and laughter in my life. I have been blessed by two awesome daughter-in-laws who, our relationship, I think, is kind of unique in that we are friends. And like, once again, if I say you're my friend, I will do almost anything for you.
What has been your most important success in your life?
Raising two sons to be independent, respectful of women, and I'm very proud of what they've done with their lives.
Is there one thing that's frustrated you most in your life?
No, not really. I love my life. I could be a better housekeeper, but that's not a big deal.
What things give you the most hope for the future?
Being around young people, talking to like the other night I was talking to my grandson and just listening to him talk about his world and what he wants from life. My granddaughter, and that she has so much talent and really likes people, and she's so, I know people don't like when you say it, but she is so sweet. She's kind and caring. So being around my grandchildren and their friends makes me hopeful for the future.
Do you want to share with us any final thoughts as what it means to be LGBTQ in the Quad Cities today?
I think maybe being one of those alphabet letters in the Quad Cities is a special place, because I do think the Quad Cities is more accepting than a lot of other places are. I think that people in this area tend to still have enough of the old-fashioned values that if they know you and you let them know you, you have friends, you have people you can count on. You have, the Quad Cities is a place of coming together.
today in 2020, what lessons would you like to leave for our viewers?
Lessons.
Lessons about growing up, lessons you would recommend.
The one thing I would leave or tell people is don't expect friendships just to exist because you want them or because you happen to be someplace and somebody says, oh, I'm your friend. A relationship, whether it's a friendship, a spouse, a parent, your children, does involve some effort on your part. And you have to try to be the kind of person that you want the other one to be.
So do you have anything to add to this interview that might be relevant today, or just any general comment?
I usually have a comment or two about most things. I think my only comment would be that to make sure that you have time in your life to develop your creative side. Everybody has one. We think we don't. I didn't think I had any talent as far as being creative until I got into quilting. I have two sons that are very creative, but they themselves didn't think they were creative until they started exploring their own self. But to give each other room and space to find what your creative outlet is going to be, because it brings you peace.
Well, I think that
Is that good?
I think that concludes our interview. I think that we failed to mention at the beginning of this tape that today is November 2nd, 2020, the day before Election Day. And I think that we didn't do that at the beginning, so we'll do it at the end.
Okay.